let us do?
Take over the world.
What do you let us do?
That's it. Well, after we decided that it was not a good idea to cut down the pearly oak, we kind of reeled ourselves in so that we could like stay on track here. We talk about, pollinator gardens
The weather.
and picking up trash.
It's 6 o'clock.
It's 6:03.
Oh.
Okay. Is Gray ready?
Is Gray ready?
Action.
Good evening. Welcome to the City of Laconia Conservation Commission meeting for July 9th, 2025. It's 6 o'clock, 6:03. I'm Dean Anson.
Deb Williams?
Lisa Moran.
Jen Kreitzer.
Gray Draper.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we're going to salute the flag and then we'll. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so our recording secretary is Gray Draper. Thank you, Gray. Gray is also wearing another hat. He is the staff in attendance. Okay, so we have the minutes from June 18th that we need to approve.
Oops. I move we accept the minutes of Wednesday, June 18th, as presented.
I will second that.
Anybody have any comments? Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes from June 18th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you. Okay, I don't think we have any DES applications.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Sure.
So at one point, we were concerned that the filtering system for what applications we saw was a little bit more strict than we were comfortable with. Has that been addressed? In other words, you felt that there were probably more applications coming into the city for development that we could have some input on, that maybe just it wasn't being triggered that they should be sending it to us, and I didn't know if you felt that's been corrected.
It has not been changed as far as I know. Is that right, Greg?
So we had talked about now, all the ones that need to go to Concom will get a signature from you, and then also the ones, even if they aren't requiring review by Concom, I was still going to be attaching them, but I really haven't had any come in. I've had, like, I think since the last time we had one in a meeting, I think I've had 1 or 2 notifications, and they weren't applications. It was just letters from DES saying that this project was like a notice in the mail, but I haven't had any applications. I was actually thinking the other day, it's really weird, but
Okay, so this is wetland applications.
yeah, to DES applications, yeah. I haven't had any city, like planning board, conservation commission, wetland CUP applications, and I haven't had any DES applications in quite a while. So I don't know, but we were just talking about a couple different projects. I had people call today who were interested in building, and they would need a wetland CUP, so we should have some coming up if they move forward. But I really haven't gotten anything in quite some time, so, weird, but it's been quiet. I think during bike week, we were also focused on everything else, so, I don't know, but, yeah, it's been quiet. We'll see if it picks up.
I think even if you could update us on some of the ongoing projects that I know you go out and, you do your site inspections.
For site inspections, like regular, unless we get a call to go out to a different property, right now, we're doing Busby at Langley Cove, we're doing the gardens up at the Weirs, we're doing Chardy, or Winnebago Campground up near the Weirs, we're doing Moose Ledge Estate, which is also up in the Weirs, and then Lady of the Lakes on White Oaks Road, and then the one at the front of Southdown. I think that's pretty much it, because our other sites, like
Yeah, but that's a
130
lot.
Prescott, got cease and desist from DES, so they're not supposed to be doing anything.
Where was that?
That was the 130 Prescott, the one out past Christmas Island, past Resort on the Bay. It kind of goes out to house out there, and they were rebuilding their main house, and then they were also trying to get rid of a cottage and put 4 up or 3 new ones up, and they just weren't really working or abiding by DES's permits, so they hit them with cease and desist, which, to my understanding, it sounds like it will be very challenging for them to get any approvals moving forward, or to continue or finish the project that they were working on, so.
And we never saw that project because it's in the performance zone?
No, that project went through and all the planning board stuff before I started working here, and that was the first project I started going and doing site inspections. So it's been going on for a while.
Right.
But yeah, they got shut down, so they don't do anything anymore. Cactus Jacks, their deck is done, that one's off the list. Yeah, it's mostly just those developments.
And how are things looking?
Pretty good. This is the first time I noticed last week and this week that Scott and I were out there in a couple of sites like the Gardens and one of the other ones. Now I can't remember. I think maybe Busby. It was the first time the sites were dry. Like there were actually dust clouds when we were driving around, where no matter what the weather has been lately, there's always been water on site. So that's been good because we can actually look at where the runoff is ponding and pooling.
So
See how.
the gardens is up above the Weirs, and Busby, what is Busby?
Busby is the one at Langley Cove.
Okay, okay.
That's that one. Yeah, Gardens is on Endicott Street,
Yeah,
North.
the opposite of north.
Yeah.
Because north is Chardy, Moose Ledge going towards Meredith.
yeah.
The other side of it going towards
It's
Guilford.
right before you get to
The old
those
sort
little
of coaster
condos
thing, yeah.
and then the
But the
stores.
gardens had a vernal pool on it.
Yeah, have you checked that lately?
So, so we are at the Gardens sometimes more than once a week, just because we really want to keep an eye on that site and their drainage, because we had people down at Lucerne calling and talking about experiencing runoff, and I think DPW got involved, or they were asking DPW about it. I'm not sure how or why, but they suggested the idea that it was coming from the garden site, so then we had to, go and investigate all that. But while the gardens, it did make sense that it was coming from the garden site, we are very much on top of the gardens about, hey, we need you to replace the silt fence, we need you to replace your silt socks on this back corner of the lot, so, and luckily Mike was out there, the guy who runs it, and, told him about those changes, and Rob was actually out with me that day, so he's getting cracking on that, but, yeah, their bottom pond is not, the water level was normal when we were last over there checking. If you're looking at the site, it's in the right, far back phase 2 that's not yet developed.
So that's where the vernal pool was.
Yeah, so there now is, I think it's, Scott said it's like a 2-part pond, because he went down there on foot to examine extra one day. But it's like their one drainage pond, and then it has a smaller one and a overflow pipe. But they have just started moving things around on the back, like phase 2 of that.
Because I noticed they're storing a lot of stuff back there.
So they do all their storage is on site on their phase 2 part. So yeah, everything is really at the front there. They have 1 or 2 pieces of equipment all the way in the back because they were moving
But I saw big
their
piles of
stockpiles.
whether gravel or whatever and stuff back there, and I couldn't see the vernal pool.
Yeah, so it's behind the pile. The pile is like in between. It's like the pond is back here, and then this giant pile, and then the rest of
Which
phase
is
2,
not
and
100
then
feet
site.
away from the vernal pool, probably.
And, well, what I'm wondering about is our unconventional buffer. Because that's the one where we kind of took a little bit different approach
Right.
using that, what do they call it? I've forgotten now.
Yeah, I do too.
There's a special name for that kind of buffer.
Yeah, so the buffer, instead of being kind of circular,
Mhm.
it
right.
followed the direction of the vernal pool.
Okay.
Because they came in and they had a scientific study that they presented saying, this is the way to do it in this type of a vernal pool.
Okay.
So, so the next time you go out there, do you know when that'll be?
We try to do inspections Monday through Wednesday mornings.
So if you let me know, you know what, when we go out to do water sampling on Wednesday, can we go over there and take a look at that?
I don't see why not. Sure.
Okay, I don't know whether you have to get permission from the owner to go on the property.
I know we need permission anytime we're working on like inspections or following up on like an investigation, but I don't know about just going out there. So
Okay.
probably should be okay, but I'll double check with the guys.
Good, okay, thanks, because, we followed the recommendation of this scientific study, which was not what, we didn't typically do a buffer that way, so.
Yeah, it was like an oval, right?
I want to say
Yeah, I'm
cupola, but
looking
I
at
don't know
it
if that's
now.
right.
So I was talking about the pond in the back corner. The vernal pool that's delineated with ArcGIS is like in the middle, and then they have like some space and then stockpiles around it. But they haven't touched where it's showing it is on this map anyway.
There was, there was a good deal of brush and trees around it.
Oh yeah, they let it grow.
time.
They've let it grow,
I mean,
and it really
when we saw
popped
it.
up. Yeah.
And then they were gonna leave that and like maybe have a trail through it or
We
something.
talked about that, yeah.
But
I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know if that's still a plan or what's up, so maybe even check in with Mike and see.
And then that RV park up past the corner there,
Tamarack.
yeah, by Tamarack. The one across the street from
Yeah,
Tamarack.
there's a for sale sign.
Oh, are you talking about at the High Octane?
Across,
No,
down a little further and up on the left.
Yeah.
on the opposite side from the
Oh,
high
You're
octane.
saying you're going towards Meredith, that's Chardy. Yeah,
Right.
Winnebago, yeah.
That was a disaster the last time I drove by.
Yeah.
That one, they're digging and putting their underground utilities in right now, but we've been pleasantly surprised at how the site seems to have almost done like a 180 from when we started going there to like what they're doing now, and then they've,
I just saw silt fences down.
oh yeah, yeah, the stuff on the road was like the stuff we were like, their SWIP guy has been great and on top of them and is like, hey, you're doing our recommendations, but we need them done a little bit more urgently. So we went out and met with him and walked the site, and he was like, this is what I want them to do, these are the problem areas I've been observing. And since then, they've been on top of it, so,
Do they have silt socks also?
yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
they
thought
have-
we said that they needed both, because it was such a hilly site and
Yeah,
like, they stripped all the trees and,
they have 2 layers of silt sock and silt fence, and then check dam silt sock down their like road drainage, and then like their culvert that goes under the driveway to
Right.
Homesies. So, yeah, they just redid it also last week or at the beginning of this week because we were out there and they had equipment and were digging, and now I think it's stabilized for how it's
I mean,
gonna be.
the weather certainly didn't help them in the spring,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So
It's
that's
challenging site.
that's what's going on around town. I should have saved it for staff report, huh?
Sorry.
Maybe next time.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more to go into.
I'm sure.
So Cactus Jacks, did they put the turbidity screen up in, in
In the
Black Brook?
So if I observed and took photos of the little bridge that Spinnaker has
Mm-hmm.
right on Black Brook. I never saw something go up there. From the pictures I have, mostly, I stayed taking the photos of the actual construction of the deck, and then at the beginning and the end of the beginning and the middle of the project, I took pictures down there at Black Brook, and I didn't see a curtain up.
So they didn't put the turbidity curtain up?
Not that I saw, unless it was in a different location. I didn't talk to the guys on that site because I never really met a supervisor. That was more just workers that were there during the day. There was only a handful of them. So, yeah. And they didn't have, I mean, it's a smaller project, it's not a full development, so they didn't have like SWIP or anything like that.
Right.
They didn't have a guy going out there doing inspections, and the project went by pretty quick, so I don't know.
It did
if
go
they
by
thought-
quick.
I don't know if they thought they could just squeeze by not
That's
doing
it.
it or what,
We
but,
finished it. We're done.
yeah.
We should make them go put the turbidity. So what they volunteered to do was to put a turbidity curtain. So it's this curtain that they put in the water so that any turbidity from
Silt.
the uphill side doesn't get into Black Brook and then into Paugus Bay, because it's just upstream of the drinking water intake.
Right.
So most people don't want a little gravelly taste in their water, so.
Did you guys do Kids in the Park? Did that already happen? Or- okay.
We elected not to do that this year.
Okay, that's fine.
So I want to go back to Lisa's question as to whether we were seeing more development projects. I made some comments at the public hearing, whatever it is, for the state school property.
Okay.
And the reaction to my comments was that the planning board said that they appreciated our comments. So I think that if we go to Charlie Sinclair and say, Charlie, if you get a project that you think we should comment on that we haven't seen yet, tell us, because he'll see it before it actually gets to the planning board, right? I mean, before it gets to the meeting for the planning board.
Well, they would get like a copy of the agenda and a staff report that,
Right.
I don't know if it has the plans on it, I would have to ask the guys, but that
Staff
gives
would
them a brief rundown of what the application is, what they wanna do, all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that if we made the request to the planning board, that we get to see more than projects that have a wetland associated with it, that they would be okay with it.
So it sounds like he's changed his tune then. Okay,
I don't think you could have been more positive about our input.
good. Okay.
Because I requested that the state school property development is going to be done in 6 phases, and I asked that we get to see each phase before the planning board gets it, so we can comment on it. And so the applicant would have to come to us, and make a presentation. And Charlie said, that's fine.
And with other projects, we had taken the position that there must be, that nobody would go into, if you have it broken out in 6 phases, then somewhere you have a complete site plan. Well, you may not be bringing it to us in a complete form, but somewhere there is a complete one. Has there been any discussion about a complete site plan before any of these phases are brought separately?
I think they have one.
I don't know
if
that,
it's
I don't know that,
detailed.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, I'm just wondering if that's part of the, here's the complete build-out, and then here's, say, for example, phase 2, so that we can have foresight about, gee, you know, by the time you get to 4, 6 is gonna be compromised. You know what I mean, that kind of thing? Anyway, that was just my thought.
that's a good point, because that happened to us over on Scenic Road. The owner of a large piece of property along Scenic Road was chopping off
Aquavista.
parcels and would come with, you know, and we asked them, do you have a plan for the whole site? And they said, no. They actually, I think, did. Maybe it was only conceptual. But the problem is exactly what Lisa was talking about, where they, you know, they came in piecemeal, we made comments, but at one point we said to them, you know, if you'd showed us the entire plan, we could have saved you some aggravation and probably some money in controlling your stormwater. But
Well, can I share what the response was to that?
what?
Can I share what the response was to that, or would you prefer I do
Sure.
that? He was like, well, we didn't want to show you the entire plan and have you reject it.
So,
I can't imagine there wouldn't be an entire, like you said, even if it was conceptual, to any large project like that, there has to be, like, they're not doing it in, like, each phase in a vacuum,
Right.
right? There
Right.
has to be some sort of
I do feel
overall.
yeah, I do feel like there's going to be plenty of time though, because they talked about a timeline of not even starting before, was it 27, Gray?
Not sure.
I think it was 27 or 28.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not next year.
Yeah.
Right,
Out a little bit.
right.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be plenty of time to.
So they have up like their proposed like phase plan, but they don't have like a site plan that's been released or anything like that, at least.
Hmm.
Looking at the plan now, it's just that thing, I don't know if you looked at the presentation, it's just that, what, title page of the presentation that shows what the layout's gonna look like.
Mhm.
But, yeah.
Anyway,
It's an ongoing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, to your question of seeing other projects.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we have to keep on top of
Mhm.
and push for.
Yeah, I
Because-
mean, it's been institutionalized in a different way for a long time, so,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
it's okay.
okay, so I want to go back to the June 18th minutes, because there are two, no, not to change the minutes, but there are two issues in the minutes that I'd like to address. One is that the checklist was approved on the 18th, and the checklist has not been reviewed by the planning department yet. And I think that that's, 3 weeks is essentially too much time.
do they only meet once a month though,
Who?
the planning board?
No, the planning department,
Oh, sorry,
planning department.
sorry.
So, and I talked to Gray about it today, and he said that Rob and Tyler had it on, they're having a meeting this week, right?
I have great news. I was gonna say for staff report. It was today.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, time out. Okay. I retract my comment. I don't want to take the wind out of your sail.
So the meeting was today, and they reviewed both the NRI and the checklist, and those are all set now. So Tyler has to do his final, like changing the dates and doing all that stuff, final review that he does because he's Mr. RFP, and then he sends it up to Gina. So it's out of our hands now. He's taking care of the tail end of things and crossing T's, dotting I's, and then he's gonna have Gina post it. So hopefully, he says he'll probably get it done by the end of this week, and then Gina should hopefully go up next week. That's the plan, and because he has to like adjust the dates and stuff. I know we put some placeholders in. So, and then the checklist, that is, so right now I'll give you the big picture during the staff report, but that is also being incorporated into the draft of the new site plan subdivision regulations. And as of now, them reviewing it today, that is now what they're going to be giving developers, especially any wetland CUP applicants. They're going to be giving that to them down in the planning department. And I'm going to see if I can make it into PDF and put it on our website so that people can actually click the links. So that is where we landed today.
Awesome.
Back to you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Sure.
And so, Gray, would it be easier if we move the staff report up higher in the agenda so that you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and sometimes I think, yes, you're right. And then sometimes we have a meeting and then it reminds me of 3 things that I should talk about later.
Okay, well,
So.
You can have one at the beginning of the meeting
Okay,
and
I
at
like
the
that.
end.
Perfect. I'll do that.
You can double dip. Okay, so what you could do is item number 5, staff attendance and report.
Okay.
Change it so that it's staff attendance and report, and then when we get down to the end, you can,
Meeting
you
wrap-up
can
or something.
leave this staff report there also, and then if there's anything else that comes up during the meeting,
Cool.
Yeah, staff conclusions or something, maybe?
sure,
Staff wrap up.
wrap up. Send us home on a positive note. Okay. Okay, so other old business, the other old businesses, I talked to Amy Levisick today about Gale Avenue. So you know Gale Avenue? So Gale Avenue, I asked her if she and Wes Anderson had a date for when they were gonna do it in August, because we have stuff that we need to do. And she said, she did not have a firm date yet, but that she was going to send an email to Wes asking him what he sees his, because he's got the front end of this project.
Yeah.
And then she's going to include me on the email, so I'll send it to you, Gray, and then you can send it to everybody, and that way you can. So then at some point in the fall, we're gonna have to get plants, and so I don't know how you wanna do that. We'll leave that up to you.
We can talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So I think that's, as far as I know, all the old business.
Okay.
Okay. New business? We got the wetland regs. So do you have Deb, do you have the combined
No,
comments?
it's not really combined. Well, yeah, it's kind of combined. But maybe other people have stuff too.
Yeah. So, does anybody have any comments on page 1?
Yes.
You do?
Well, you marked it up too.
Oh, I know, I know, but I was like, I apologize.
Do you
I
want,
was.
so why don't you do yours and I'll do mine? Can we do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Can I, instead of me copying down all your edits, can we just make copies later? Okay.
Yes.
We'll give you paper copies.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so my first comment is under authority, and, I mean, this is, I thought it should be, in the fourth line, it should be the Laconia Planning Department is authorized to administer and grant. It was just being more specific, that's all. It's not like earth-shaking here. Anybody have anything else on the first paragraph? Authority.
Is it the planning department or the planning board?
Well, the way it's written, it was the planning board. Oh,
I'm asking, I don't know
Yeah.
which one it is, so.
I don't either, but I
Now
think
that you
that's a really
say
good.
that, authorized to administer and grant conditional use permits, I think it is the board, right?
They have to be approved.
So
Right.
it's just, do you want it to say, it says the planning board right now, do you want it to say the Laconia Planning Board is the question?
Yeah,
And-
that was, yeah.
Yes, but I think that,
Yeah, I was asking if it was the planning board versus planning department,
Yeah.
so. But it's, board is correct, so,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess
Yeah.
just adding Laconia is fine.
good. Okay, then under purpose and intent, I just had minimal stuff like after ensure the protection of water, comma, wetland resources and vernal pools from activities that would adversely affect is, I think, the right word. And then under item A, it says prevent or minimize soil erosion. I'd want to take out minimize. I'd like to make it more stringent. So,
What do you wanna change it to?
Just take out, we just wanted to take out or minimize.
Just prevent soil erosion.
Just prevent
Okay.
soil, yes.
soil erosion and sedimentation into surface waters and wetlands. Under item C, prevent the degradation of surface and groundwater and drinking water. Drinking water quality. So just add and drinking water,
In front of quality.
but, maybe I don't know.
Oh.
It'd just be surface, ground, and drinking water, quality and quantity.
Yeah. You'd be drinking water anyway. Prevent the loss or under D. I had a question as to degradation of representative and rare examples of wetland plants and animals.
Mm-hmm. What's the,
So I had a question as to, you know more about this than I do, Lisa, I think, is representative and rare examples.
well, I take that to mean representative would be those plants you would expect to see in a wetland. And then rare examples would be those that are like, oh my God, there's an orchid that we didn't, you know what I mean? That's how I read that.
Okay, so we should leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, it made sense to me. If you think it wouldn't make sense to somebody
Okay.
else, then,
I think, yeah, I read it like endemic, like something that's like endemic, like.
Right.
Mhm.
Like you'd expect to see it there.
Okay,
Yeah.
It should be there.
right.
I Item E, prevent the loss or degradation of valuable wetland systems and surface waters for education and research in natural sciences. I don't understand my comment here. I think I wanted it to be to prevent the loss and degradation of valuable wetland systems and surface waters for education and research in natural sciences and to preserve drinking water quality.
I apologize that I didn't spend a lot of time with this, but do we in any way, is this an appropriate place to just take a stand for the fact that this system represents a habitat? You know what I mean? Right now, we're just saying this is what's in, this is how we use it, but maybe we could be cognizant and making a value judgment that it doesn't have to be just beneficial to us. It's an ecosystem that supports other kinds of life. I'm just throwing that out there. That's my, I don't know if this is an appropriate place for that or if that seems like a little too. Prevent the loss and degradation of valuable wetland and
Ecological?
Habitat systems and surface waters for education, education, conservation, and research in natural sciences, something like that. I mean, just the word conservation. I mean, it still can be read into, but. So what I said was, prevent the loss or degradation of valuable wetland and, I can't even remember what I said, habitat systems and surface waters for education, conservation, and research in natural sciences.
I like that.
Okay.
Or change it, I'm just saying, that's my thought.
So are you gonna, you'll have the master copy with this because.
I will.
You will. You do.
Yes, you will.
So
Okay.
just putting in what Lisa just said.
Can you say it one
I
more?
will try.
Did you write any of it?
I will, no, I didn't, of course I'm not.
Gray's recording it, right?
Yeah, in his live stream.
But I think what I said was prevent the loss or degradation of valuable wetland and,
Wait, are you on F or G?
oh,
E.
E.
Okay, wait.
Or degradation of valuable wetland systems.
Wetland and habitat systems and surface waters,
Maybe,
or valuable habitat and wetland systems, I mean, if you want.
should it be an H? Should it be incorporated in there?
I am, okay, I'm
I don't-
fine,
I
I'm fine
mean-
with how it, just write it off to the side and make sure it gets put somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So habitat and, shoot, what am I saying? Guys, come on.
Ecological systems?
I didn't say ecological, no.
No, you can-
Conservation.
Conservation.
Yeah,
Conservation,
thank
okay.
you, Jennifer. Conservation.
I mean, I picture that we're, Gray will update this and we'll take
Sure.
another shot at it, so.
Oh, that's fine. Like I said, if you guys decide, no, that's too touchy-feely, I'm okay with that too. It's up to you.
We like touchy-feely.
Okay, so are we done with E?
Mm-hmm.
F.
So on F, you had, at the last part of the sentence, to store floodwaters and control stormwater instead of manage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't know.
manage is more of the best practice word kind of thing. I I don't
Okay,
know.
then leave it that way. And I think I changed it from prevent damage to property and degradation of surface and groundwater.
Damage of
Fine.
property. Okay, yeah, instead of to, okay.
Anything else on F? G,
G, you just had an
strike
degradation of
and take out the
A,
A.
and just have diversity.
I don't think you can use that word.
You don't think what?
Hmm?
I don't think you can use that word. Diversity.
Oh.
I'm being funny.
Is that all on G?
Yes,
Okay, H. Prevent the loss of visual aesthetic qualities of wetlands, including their contribution to open space, natural character, and overall scenic beauty of the landscape.
Is that where you wanted to put in?
I would, I mean, no, well, this is good, this is
Okay,
natural character, that would be good.
okay.
I have a quick question. It's going backwards, sorry.
That's okay.
On F, I'm wondering if, because on C, we added drinking, so prevent the degradation of surface, ground, and drinking water quality and quantity.
Mhm.
Do we want to also add drinking to F, since we're also talking about surface and groundwaters? I don't know if it necessarily applies here.
You know, I think that would be a good place to put it, because maintaining the capacity of wetlands in the watershed to store floodwaters, manage stormwater, and preserve drinking water? Preserve drinking water quality and quantity?
Yeah,
We kind of have that,
especially, I mean,
we have that right above there.
Maybe Jen's right, it shouldn't be an E, it should be an F.
Well,
No, I think-
we
I
have it
think-
in C. I'm just saying, like, in C,
Right.
we initially had surface and groundwater, we added drinking. So
Right.
in F, we also have surface and groundwater, so I'm wondering if we also want to add drinking to this point as well.
Except we're talking about the, maintaining the capacity of the wetlands.
Yeah. So I don't know that it applies. I'm just saying we're
Store
kind of discussing the same.
And manage, and,
Well-
because it's kind of talking about managing stormwater and floodwaters.
Gray, did you start to say something?
yeah, well, if the Paugus Bay and the intake is gonna fall as a wetland under this, it would still apply. So it's up to you if you wanna include it or not.
But what about the people over on, like, Layton Avenue that all have private wells?
Yeah, if it's not, their wells aren't recognized as a wetland.
That's what?
Their wells wouldn't be recognized as a wetland, as
No.
you're saying, yeah. You say something like, I don't know, public drinking water? I don't know, city drinking water,
Yeah, I see what you mean, Jen.
yeah.
So we can add drinking water. Okay. That's easy enough. Okay.
Okay. So, are we on to item 2?
2.
Okay, so I think grammatically, and I'm not a grammarian, but that's never stopped me. I think it should be a colon after degradation, and then it should be to prevent, to moderate, to protect. I think that that's what it's supposed to be, be grammatically correct, but I don't know. Maybe,
I'll, yeah,
maybe you know.
I'll find out.
Okay. Okay. Page 2,
On A, under
Whoops.
2,
sorry.
2A, where it says prevent erosion and sedimentation by stabilizing soil, I thought we could say, i.e. plants, landscape cover, just to, in case anybody
Silt
had a
socks
question.
and silt fence.
Well, by stable, yeah. I mean, I was thinking more naturally, but,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
naturally using, and during construction, silt socks and silt fences.
okay.
You could say something like through both hard and soft scaping, and then that way, I'm just saying,
I'm sorry?
I was just offering that you could say something like through both hard and soft scaping, and then that way you don't have to like, well, but you said plantings, you know what I mean, kind of thing. It can be a discussion point.
I see.
That's just my thought.
I was just trying to give examples in case somebody
Right.
was
Yeah.
not familiar.
Oh, I understand. I understand. Yeah, my example wouldn't help them one bit. You're
Mm.
right. You're right. Okay.
So are we on B?
Yeah, I don't have anything else until C.
So do we have any thermal discharges, seriously? Actually, there used to be, remember the pipes that went from Kentucky Fried Chicken and from McDonald's that were underground, that went over and discharged into Black Brook, and as a condition of approving, they had to remove those pipes.
I remember that.
And I don't know what they were discharging, but
Well, that was the question we weren't
That
sure.
was everybody's question.
But, I mean, so I think oh, are you done? Do you wanna?
go ahead.
I think the conventional wisdom is that any impervious surface that is absorbing heat through the sun or temperature becomes a thermal discharge
Okay.
at its
Okay, good.
egress point. I mean, that's a conventional wisdom, but I don't
Yeah.
want to argue.
I think that's a good point. Okay. Okay, so anything else on 2?
I guess, no, sorry. I was looking at 3.
Okay, what do you have on 3?
You have, at the very end, you crossed out
Loss of
the
water.
loss of water quality. Instead, you wanted to put reduction of water quality. It does make it more specific.
And maybe degradation of water quality?
It's already there. Well, degradation of wetlands. I think reduction of water quality is good.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, anything else on 3? Okay. Establishment of a water quality district. No, water conservation. Wetland conservation district? What is,
What does
no,
it stand
water
for?
quality. It's not,
Yeah, water quality.
Wetlands conservation. Oh,
It's-
water
it's a
quality.
C, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's the water quality,
control.
Conservation overload district.
Yeah.
Overlay district, well, anyway,
correct.
whatever the WC is.
The WQ, I think, but.
It should be, you're correct.
So, I talked to the guys. There is no WC map, as we discussed before. And I was like, okay, so how do I kind of explain where where it falls under? And according to the city's definition of the WC, it's the whole city of Laconia would fall under it,
Because it's all in a watershed.
that's right.
My favorite saying. Interesting.
That's
We-
great. Then we don't have to do the other thing. I had this other comment that, how do we expand the water quality overlay district? We can't, unless
It's everywhere.
we could take over
So-
part of
Over-
Guilford.
You have
So,
to take over another town.
so the thing that was interesting to me on this paragraph 2 anyway, one is you had a question of where was this Article 2, where was all this amendment and all. But number 2 says the WC district shall be superimposed upon other zoning districts in this chapter, and the regulations pertaining to the WC district shall be in addition to the regulations of the underlying districts and other city ordinances. Whichever provisions are more restrictive, I'm jumping down to the end, or impose higher standards shall control. So, does that mean the WC district can be more stringent than the performance zoning?
I don't know.
I have an answer. Yes.
It's written that way.
It is
Yeah, it
written
is,
that way.
yeah. It's, but, here's the question. Are these wetland regulations in effect now?
These ones, yes.
They are,
They're supposed to be.
okay,
This is the standing wetland regs, yeah.
okay. Okay, and Gray and I talked about this today. I think what we have to do, but Gray, once we make the changes here, we have to go to the planning board and then to the city council?
I don't even know if this one has to go to planning board. I know it has to go to city council. The updated checklist when the whole site plan subdivision regulations are proposed, that has to be approved by planning board. But for this, I know this has to go to city council. I don't think this also has to go to planning board though.
Okay,
I think it's just council.
Does the planning department have any say?
Probably it'll be, so Tyler is Mr. RFP, and also him and Rob will draft, what changes they wanna make, and Tyler types it up and polishes it. So it'll probably be reviewed by him and then make its way through whatever draft process they have for that, but, yeah. I think it's gonna be pretty similar to the checklist, where you guys come up with a final draft, I review it with them, and then Tyler makes it official, and then it has to go through the approval process.
okay. Okay, under establishment of the WC district, as specified in Article Roman numeral 2 of what?
Article 2 of the regulation, so if this wasn't the PDF, you could click on that and it would take you to the article. Let me pull it up.
Okay, but it does refer, it was just like hanging here, and I didn't have the Article 2, so.
Right, yeah, so it's referring to the ordinance. This is just the excerpt that's within
Okay.
the bigger ordinance, so it just redirects you to the actual definitions section where it just defines what a wetland is. Yeah.
Okay. And then the bold type that's still a good reference?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
anything that's ever been like updated or changed is cited like that, amended, and then gives you like the date.
Okay.
So seriously though, my question about performance zoning and these regulations,
What about, like,
well, when they say development on the river can go 15 feet next to the river, and
It's not consistent with this.
it's not consistent with this.
And the fact that the state school property is performance zoning, so they have to abide by these regulations.
that's, I don't know.
Right.
It's all Rob.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it would be a good discussion to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good discussion, but I think that the thing is, you know, the discussion should be had before an applicant comes in and, you know, like state school property and say, well, we're exempt from all these, blah, 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 blah. No, not from this. You're not exempt from this.
Okay. I see what you're saying, yeah.
And, I mean, I am not familiar with all the performance zoning regulations that they have, but when they say somebody can develop 15 feet next to the river, did they have any stipulations in there about, you know, special berms or plantings or anything?
I'm not sure, I haven't seen, like, how they drafted the performance zoning when that was adopted, cause that was a little bit before me, but,
Right.
I don't know. That would be something I could.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of conflicted a little,
Yeah,
and I think there's definitely room for improvement.
yeah, the guys will be looking at the ordinance sometimes and notice things that
Right.
are in opposition and are like, we gotta rewrite this, we gotta, so they know that there's stuff that needs to, some updating, so I'll add this to the list and also be like, hey, what do we,
I mean, I just think about all of the parking lots that are right, running off into the river.
to the water.
Right. Small things, but they add up.
Right.
I think
Yeah, I
that'd be,
wonder, it would probably be similar to the, what's it called, like Meineke or, on Union Ave where
Right.
they're already existing, but we could maybe look at having some say if anyone wants to do new projects there.
I think, I mean, looking down the road and long-term, I mean, I really think we should, and we've talked about having a study for Opeachy as to stormwater runoff, because just walking around the edge of that during drawdown, I mean, there's a lot of places where that water just rushes down off of, you know, all these parking lots. And yes, there's a million projects that could be done, but even just plantings and, I mean, I think about what Tyler did in Belmont. Just little things. I mean, if you have an existing parking lot, you know, do you have a curb there to stop some of that runoff? Do you have some plantings that could be done? You know, I think that would be a great project for us. I'm good at finding projects. But, I mean, it's important, and, you know, people don't think about it and don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Well, they see it as their one project, they're not thinking as the totality.
Right.
Right.
I
It's
think
like
it's Tyson.
Tyson,
Morrow.
yes,
Tyson
sorry.
Morrow.
I
No,
knew
it's
it was a
fine.
T.
death by 1,000 cuts, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, but it's worth a good discussion at some point.
Okay. So item 3. Wetlands and vernal pools shall be delineated by a certified wetland scientist as licensed by the state of New Hampshire. Delineation should be accomplished in the spring and early summer. Because we've had applicants come and have delineated their wetlands in the middle of the summer, and we required them to go back and redo the wetland delineations in the spring. And they changed.
Do we wanna say studied in the spring instead of accomplished?
Sure.
And I don't know this answer, usually, if a study's been done like 2 years, it's like 2 years old or something, is it still considered? Vernal pools don't necessarily change that much, but they could be affected by a lot of stuff going on around them, so I don't know if you wanted to put a time limit on the validity of the study.
So what's the state limit? The state limit must have, it must, for the wetland scientist, it must, maybe,
How long is their stamp good for, kind of thing, on a project?
how long is a wetland delineation?
I know the permits can change, I mean, sometimes the permits themselves, what, 5 years or something? Like, you can run out a permit after 5 years.
I think a permit is good for 5 years.
I think.
A lot can change in 5 years.
Hmm?
A lot can change in 5 years.
Yeah.
Under the DES, wetland delineations generally remain valid for 5 years. However, there are certain conditions under which a wetland delineation may become invalid before the 5-year period ends. There's a reason to believe the original delineation might be incorrect. Property or adjacent property has been disturbed in a way that could affect stormwater, surface water, groundwater flow. New information warrants a review. Vernal pools may be present.
Vernal pools may be what?
Present.
So maybe just, something like, in line with New Hampshire DES recommendations or something, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I don't like that, because they missed the point. The big point is climate change. Look at these people in New Mexico, look at the people in Texas. I mean, Texas new, it happens on a regular basis, but the point is that if we start getting significantly more either intense or larger precipitation, wetlands can change.
Yeah.
I mean, if we go through a dry period.
So, do we want to add something to number 3, or just by virtue of the fact that that already exists in the DES rules, that we can hearken back to it should somebody come to us with a plan that we know that the area around it's been developed and we want an updated delineation or something? I mean, sometimes it feels like you just want to I just want to put stuff in there just to be really sure, but then it's like a burden, I don't know.
So if my 9th grade civics is still valid,
Yeah,
our regulations can be more stringent than the state's.
that's true. They can.
And
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, I'm sorry.
Under D, number 3, it talks about when the alleged area has been incorrectly delineated or not so designated. I mean, maybe we could put that there.
where's this?
Number D3,
Yeah.
it talks about
Next page?
it talks about redoing, asking for a new
In other
study.
words,
Yeah.
Lisa, read the paperwork.
No, I'm just looking at this now too,
Yeah, no,
that's
I
why
get
I'm
that.
interrupting, I'm sorry.
No, you're not interrupting, thanks.
Okay. Let's just,
Move on.
okay, so then, So D1, where maps or field investigations, S, right, got that? Where maps or field investigations.
investigations. Okay.
Anybody have anything else on 1?
Because, well, you wanted that to continue to say, a wetland may be present on a proposed development site. The city of Laconia shall require that the applicant provide a professional instead of may.
Where's that? I did that?
Yeah.
No, you did.
Oh, maybe I did.
Let's see.
Well, it's on yours too. Anyway,
Shall,
what do you think? Shall require that the applicant provide instead of may require the applicant?
right? I think it's stronger, right?
It is, yeah.
Well,
My mother never
one-
told me I shall do this, she told me
Well, yeah,
will,
one's a directive and one's an option,
Right.
right.
so.
So now we're on page 3.
Your pages are different than mine for some reason.
Oh, there's a number down the bottom.
I know, but mine were printed differently. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
Sorry.
So you had on 2 that you wanted to add and the wetland buffer identified?
Right.
Marked on the site with flagging along the wetland perimeter and the wetland buffer identified.
And along the, flagged along the wetland perimeter and the wetland buffer. Not identified, just,
So you want,
I want 'em
Flags
both-
on the
I want 'em
buffer
both
also?
flagged, Yeah.
okay. Do they typically do that, Gray?
What?
Put flags on the buffer zone also? I haven't seen
Not
that.
usually.
But they,
Unless it's like a shoreline project, it might,
Mm.
or just for the guy working on site to see, but
It would have helped us on a specific project that we looked at.
you
No
know,
names.
they do it on the drawings though,
True.
yeah.
Yep.
so.
It is easier to see when it's on the ground.
But if we want to go out in the field, like we've gone out in the field and looked at sites, and when you mark the wetland buffer, and then you mark where the wetland is, then that's what happened with the gardens. Right? Okay. Okay. What's next?
So, do we want to specifically say in here, Lisa, that if the area has been compromised, there might be a need for a new wetland determination? It's kind of a wordy
Yeah,
paragraph anyway.
I wasn't married to that, and I suppose we could make it a condition in another way, rather than, you know. It was kind of a question, I guess, more than.
It's a good question when projects are, postponed.
Well, isn't it giving it's giving the power to the planning board, right?
Yeah.
So,
On the basis of additional on-site investigation or other suitable research that the information
so
on the map is incorrect. So that kind of,
Well, the very last sentence, right, says, prior to the ruling on this, the planning board shall request Conservation Commission review and comment on the reclassification.
Okay. That kinda does it.
So we done with 3? Now we're down to E.
E.
Okay. Then we get to the $64,000 question. Mr. Gray? Within 100 feet outside the boundary of any prime wetland.
We have 0.
No, don't say that.
Well, no, it's true. Physically, we don't have 0, but
Classified yet.
correct.
But I think, you know, in Jen's neighborhood, we should.
And we need to get that done quick before anything happens.
So what was the decision, Gray, or the recommendation in terms of coming up with a definition? Or no, Deb, you had that whole,
For prime wetland?
yeah,
Yeah,
you had a whole,
I did.
okay, so we have, that's a separate issue. We'll deal with that.
I have it right here.
Okay. so-
Areas of substantial significance due to their size, unspoiled character, fragile condition. You have to conduct a formal study to identify the high-value wetlands, hold a public hearing, and vote on the designation. And the city submits the study maps and designation to DES, and if approved, it will receive special protection, the 100-foot buffer, as a prime wetland.
Okay, so when we get the NRI, that would be one of the things we're gonna have to ask the company that gets the project if they will help us identify prime wetlands.
Sounds good.
Their recommendation on what prime wetland should be.
Okay.
I think that there's a, so the water from, remember when we were over sampling on, oh God. What's the road that I told you that the water from Mike Foot's property flowed down? What's,
Hilliard.
Hilliard. So I think that the water that flows from Mike Foot's pond, there used to be a beaver dam that created a wetland there, and I think the dam, well, when we did the NRI in '09, the dam was gone. But you know those damn beavers, they'd still be out there.
Sure.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Where is Mellinger Brook?
Good question.
I've never heard of it.
I don't know.
I probably know what
Okay,
place
so
it's
I think that we need to have a map that shows these unnamed brooks, A through I. There is a map that had it, remember?
in. Yes, there is a map that has that.
Right.
But I don't think most people know where that map is, or that there is a map. But it says on the official zoning map, so. And then, if we're gonna do that, then we should look at the tributaries that flow into Langley Brook. Because they come from the other side of White Oaks Road.
Yeah. They go from side.
So, I mean, we can't, and I don't know whether they're perennial streams or we definitely need a map that shows where A through I.
Yeah, and you had something written here about boundaries shall be applied to class
1,
1 through 4 streams?
right.
Is that different than A through I?
Remember the class 1, we had, the city council approved the buffer on class 1 streams because the regs said class 2 through 4, but they didn't say 1. And so we made the case that the buffer should be applied to 1 also, because I think that if you look at the streams that flow into Jewett Brook,
Right.
those are class 1 streams. And so, and they're in people's backyards.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about Hutchinson, is it Hutchinson Road or something like that, one of the, yeah.
Yeah.
But anybody know where Mellinger is?
I looked it up and there's nothing.
I wonder if that's, I don't know, maybe it's been,
I mean, we were calling the one on the other side of Union Cemetery Meadowbrook. I mean, I wonder if that isn't,
could be.
That could be. My only comments on this section were too bold. The 100 feet, 75 feet, 50 feet, 30 feet, just so that it stood out. And then I think on E, I thought it should read 30 feet from the top of the bank on each side instead of both sides, because that's kind of weird. From the top of the bank on each side of intermediate and perennial streams.
Okay, and then that takes care of this up here.
And then these streams are shown on and will correspond to the latest version of the U.S. Geographical Survey map. Should it say or Laconia map, whichever is newer? I don't know which.
Say most up to date.
The most recent
Yeah.
version?
That's what we did with the, I think the NRI, you guys ended up saying something like that.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, so are we done with 1?
What is that? On 2, you had a couple of word changes.
Yeah, so on 2, it was buffer shall be retained in their natural condition where buffer disturbance is permitted pursuant to this chapter. Revegetation of the disturbed area will
Yep,
be required.
yep. And then disturbing the buffer without prior permit approval will subject you to violations and penalties.
And what are the violations that we give them?
So, we can set, I believe we can set whatever violations would be reasonable, but the enforcement of them is falls, I think, into the same boat where we are now. Same with zoning, if Scott has someone that they keep getting complaints about, they have a trailer or camper in their yard. He's I can send them letters and tell them violation letters. I can send them 3 letters, and then they're officially time's up, you're in violation. But we can't, so then they start accruing fines, but we can't actually go collect the fines. We don't have the power to do that. So so to enforce it, I'm not sure about that piece.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's, I think, the same, anything really that we wanna do. We have fees or it's time to enforce something, we're kinda stuck, or our hands are tied, so I think the wetland regs would fall under that category as well. But I do like, the idea of the language you're using being more of an order and less of a request, I think, is a good start. Cause hopefully most people will just abide by the regulations and we
Right.
won't have a lot of violators.
Gives less wiggle room, yeah.
Yep.
You know what the problem is? People don't understand this necessarily. The problem is your reputation precedes you. So if you violate rules and you don't put them, clear up that violation, the next time you come in asking for a permit, we know.
That's true.
We're like elephants. We don't forget.
But I can be bribed for a peanut.
Okay. What?
Those are the chipmunks I work with every day.
I said, but I can be bribed with a peanut. That was all.
On 3A, these are exceptions, which I never liked that word. I thought that should be stricken, the whole thing. I know it says,
Yeah.
wetlands less than 3,000 square feet. So that could be an area 54 feet by 54 feet. That's pretty big.
This is the issue that we faced on Layton Avenue North when the applicant came in. Remember, he had wetlands, but they weren't continuous wetlands. It was like a little over here and a little over there. And he said, I have less than 3,000 square feet. Or, no, I have more than 3,000, but it's not contiguous. So I agree with Deb. And I think this whole thing of this, vernal pools are non-exempt. This does not apply to vernal pools. None.
Oh, it
It
says
does
that.
apply to vernal pools, it's only if the vernal pool is 3,000 feet or less right now, it's exempt. But if it's greater than 3,000 square feet, then it still has to abide by these regulations, is how
Right.
it's written currently.
And we don't want that because these vernal pools are not necessarily greater than 3,000 square feet, but they're really critical. There's some species that only breed in those vernal pools, and they come back generation after generation.
I take it as vernal pools are non-exempt, meaning you can't exempt them.
Meaning there's no exemptions when it comes to vernal pools. That's how I read it,
Yeah.
but
Then
Well,
let's
then
say
that's the way it
that.
should
Let's
say
say
it,
that
yeah.
there are no exemption for vernal pools.
that's just how I read it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
No,
think,
I think you're right.
I think that's what it says.
But- Right, but to Jennifer's point, so we have like 4 people here, and 3 of them have differences of opinion. You may all come to the same conclusion, but there was a little bit of confusion. So what Jennifer said was more straightforward, I
Right.
thought.
What did you say?
I think I said there are no exemptions for
Vernal
vernal
pools.
pools.
Okay.
Right.
Or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear. I think. It's a lot, anyway.
That's already what's written. I'm just saying it differently, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah,
But
no,
it's
we recognize
not
it.
clear. This,
Right.
what you said is clearer.
Okay, good.
So you, Deb, you want to strike all of 3.
No, 3A.
Lisa, what do the state regs say with regard to man-made detention basins? You go out, a guy goes out in the woods and he creates a ditch and it becomes a wetland it's a wetland, right?
I believe that is correct. If you have created the 3 categories that define a wetland, I believe then it is a wetland.
Right.
That's my understanding, but I haven't kept up on the regulations.
But that was exactly the reason that Steve Smith came when he was doing Stafford Oil. Remember, there was a
Yes.
trench alongside the building?
Yes.
Man-made stormwater devices intentionally designed as wetland habitat are non-exempt.
Where are you?
That's B, that's under B.
Under B?
3B,
Yep. It's like the last sentence that goes on to the next page.
Wait a minute. 3B. 3B. 3. Where? I'm lost.
Page 3, the very last sentence.
I'm on the wrong page.
Mine's not the last sentence, I don't think.
Oh, well,
yeah.
I'm not looking at a
different.
printout.
But I think they're different, like,
Yeah, here, 3B.
Okay. Man-made
Okay.
sedimentation, detention basins, for which there is no prior wetland. So it's saying that these are exempt?
It's saying that they can be, that the basins, ditches, swales, agricultural irrigation ponds, fire ponds, and, I mean, I understand that, because, you know, there has to be a certain maintenance there.
I have to tell you, when I lived in Long Bay and I wanted to put a porch, I wanted to take my deck off and put a porch on, Shauna told me to sit down and fill out a CUP app because the detention basins that they had dug had a wetland buffer. A 50-foot wetland buffer. And she said, anyway.
Well, but they were intentionally designed as a wetland habitat.
No, they weren't. They were
They had just grown up that way?
they were dug to be a fire suppression pond.
Oh.
And after years, they became wetlands.
Right. I'm thinking of the one down the road from you now, the retention pond. And, I mean,
Okay, that one is a detention pond, not a fire suppression pond. It's a detention pond. It's only supposed to control the water and then let it percolate into the ground. But I agree with you. And I even talked to Rob about it. I said, Rob, but it's got wetland vegetation. And he said, sorry, that's not on the drawings. The drawing said this is a detention basin.
right,
Where are you talking about?
in Southdown, or no, in, where are you now?
Taylor, I don't know.
Taylor
Okay,
Community.
Okay,
Land.
so it's
I'm in
not on the
La La
main road,
Land.
okay.
No, it's,
Yeah,
no, and
okay.
it's,
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a problem with them maintaining that. Sorry.
Well, as long as it's, if,
It's a gray area. Routine activities must be undertaken
with
at a
an A or an E?
significant frequency, that the structure being maintained remains intact and functional for its intended purpose. So, if you have a fire pond there, and it's being maintained as a fire pond, then,
so I think the difference here is that this is maintained. We're talking about maintained.
right.
The ones in Long Bay were not maintained. They were just dug and left. So,
So do you want that first, the beginning to say man-made, comma, and maintained, comma?
right. Maybe that makes it clearer.
Does say maintained in the bottom.
It does, yeah.
I know, but
Okay, I'm just,
We
yeah.
could start
yeah,
it though.
I think we put it in twice, it's,
Put in twice, yeah.
I mean, does anybody have any problem with striking that whole letter A?
I don't.
Eliminate it.
Okay. This is my 15 feet.
This is what?
This is, C is the 15 feet that sticks in.
Oh,
Buffers on property with shoreline frontage on the Winnipesaukee River from Messer Street Bridge
From OPG to Winnisquam.
to Winnisquam may be reduced to 15 feet prior, provided that a conditional use permit is granted.
And following standards from subsection 1I to, what? Where are those?
Where is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know, Greg? Or is it in here?
We have this,
1 to,
see where it says under C?
Yeah, it would be in the.
1, okay,
Under
so
what?
it would be on page 1, right? Subsection I 2A, no?
No, this, I don't think there is a
So
subsection I. Wait a minute, maybe.
under B,
We don't
'Cause it-
have a subsection I. Except what follows.
Well, we have standards for
it's-
granting of a conditional use permit
Where are you?
on page 6.
standard, yeah, that's the rest of the sentence. H, standards for granting a condition are met. The applicant shall further demonstrate that the overall development of site improves the current water quality of stormwater.
So is that, where it's saying that is just referring to this whole section on page 6 and 7?
That's, and it's saying they're exempt from the footage.
So,
I'm saying, maybe it's subsection.
I2A is the proposed activity or use is consistent with the purpose of the WC district. So, it aligns with the purpose and
Oh,
use
yeah.
of the WC. C is the proposed activity minimizes the environmental impact to abutting or downstream property and or hydrologically connected water and or wetland resources. E, federal and or state permits have been received for the proposed activity in accordance with the Wetland Board rules, New Hampshire Admin Rules, WT 100 to 800. The state programmatic general permit and the Army Corps of Engineers Section 404 permit. Then we have for F, where applicable, proof of compliance with all other state and or federal regulations has been received. G, the proposed activity when being considered, whether concurrently with subdivision or site plan applications or not, shall take into account future development requirements or possibilities pertinent to the land under consideration and shall reasonably provide therefore. Lots shall be designated, lots shall be designed to minimize future alterations to wetland and wetland buffers. And H, the activity has been designed using the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Sciences, or Environmental Services, the USDA Soil Conservation Service, and Rockingham County Conservation District, Stormwater Management and Erosion and Sediment Control, a handbook for urban development. So it's basically just listing all these sources that it has to be designed using. Bunch of books.
Which is great for new development, but most of the development on that river was developed before any of this.
Does redevelopment?
Yeah. So,
I, th-
so,
so, if we're gonna leave it subsection I to a blah, 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 I think we should put that it's below, because I thought the I was a Roman numeral.
No.
It's a capital letter.
Yeah. Yeah, so all the,
Then I'm going, there is no one, Roman numeral one. I went down that rabbit hole. I was like, see you later.
I think it's confusing too, where it says the following standards from subsection I to A through H. I don't think we need standards for I think we could just say granting a conditional use permit are met, because we're already saying the following standards from this subsection,
right.
granting
Cross
a
out the-
conditional use, like, we don't need the, right? Am I
Right.
just reading that weird?
No, no, you're right.
Just to make it a little less run-on, I think.
So,
I think in C, the applicant shall further demonstrate that the overall development of the site could improve the current water quality or stormwater handling. Stormwater discharge. Okay. Discharge is okay. And how are you gonna know that? Until it's too late. Or
well, right, I mean, it's one thing, like I said, to have new development, so those stipulations would definitely pertain to that new marina that is being constructed across from the boat ramp, that he just got an extension on his,
yeah, you got a 5-year extension.
got an extension on his, project.
And that one
Right, Craig?
is, and that one is performance zoning.
It is performance zoning, so I
But-
mean, but,
this is over performance zoning.
well, I mean, this is talking specifically about any development that's, within that 15-foot
Right.
thing, and he's definitely gonna be within that, and I know most of the holdup on that project has been with what's it called, the Winnipesaukee
River basin,
River Basin, because
wastewater
the
treatment
sewer
plant.
pipe runs right under the river there by his property. So I know that's part of what his holdup has been, but, yeah, I mean, we could be very stringent with how he develops that. I mean, right now, everything is like right there, right? I mean, he wants to, I believe, and I haven't seen the plan, cause it was submitted in 23, I think. 2023, but I think he was talking about taking down some of those boathouses and putting up new. You don't know
I
offhand.
think that's right. I think he was talking about, it's a bigger development than what's there now.
So it's just, and I don't know, as we read further someday,
I think the,
I think we need to, unless it's in here already, think about, how to put in language for projects that are already done for properties that already exist and how they could be improved. I'm just thinking, you know, like New Hampshire Lakes has their program, Lake Smart. And people voluntarily call them and ask them to come and look at our waterfront property and let us know how we can improve it so that we don't have stormwater runoff, or so it cuts it way down. I mean, that could be done along the river also.
These are homeowners that are asking, you know, tell me what I could do differently on my property at my expense.
You know, maybe that goes back to us developing a pamphlet and giving it to the people that live on the river, you know, with suggestions for,
Isn't most of the river,
Best
commercial?
right, but they need to learn too.
Well, but there's,
Right, I
but-
thought you were meant about, like the example of the homeowners.
There are, I mean, right on the river.
yeah, they're residential.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few
Yeah.
actually.
I'm thinking,
They're residential, but they're not owned individually, like it's a company, Hodges Company or something like that, right?
No, they're,
Oh, are they?
yeah, right there by the boat ramp, right across the river, there's probably
Oh, there's several houses there, those are
Right.
individuals,
houses
yes.
there, and then further up by Opeachy, there are some, I mean, some are apartment houses.
Yeah, there are a
buildings,
few
but-
houses, yeah, I guess I was thinking like the Rivers Apartments here and stuff like that, there's a lot
Oh,
of.
those, that's true.
Well, there's,
But even the River Walk,
Alan Rogers. Those are condos.
right, that's what
Mhm.
Lisa was thinking about. But that River Walk, I mean, they mow, right? They mow the grass right
But you
there
know what? They have, vegetation right,
at the
right,
shoreline.
right on the shore.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to offer that I probably really can't stay more than 8 o'clock, so.
Okay, okay. Okay. So we're down to item. Do you have anything on item 4? The table, the buffer table? Because underneath it, we have this, no designated prime wetlands as of October 23.
Right, so we're gonna, should we strike that?
I don't think we can strike it, I think we should,
I don't,
I mean,
I
we
don't,
could- we
we don't,
could-
why, we don't have to have that information there. We don't have to have a note.
okay, take the
It's
note.
it's got a one though, it's got like a, it's going
It
somewhere.
does have a little one.
Yeah,
Where's,
so it's
where does that go?
referenced
It
somewhere.
goes up to designated prime wetlands up on the table,
It's, yeah, the table's referencing the note.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Oh, okay, thank you.
we can take that out.
Okay, we take that out. We're gonna change that. Right after we get everybody to do silk socks, silk fences.
Silk socks, I want silk socks.
Okay, permitted uses exempt from planning board approval. The following uses are permitted in all wetlands. I
Strike.
delete all, just
Strike, yep.
in wetlands and wetland buffers, provided they will not require the erection of construction of a building or structure. They will require recontouring, blah, 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 of the land. Take out no, is it no draining?
Yes,
Leave no in?
right, we have to leave that in.
Okay. Judging, change in the flow of water. Will result, change in the flow of water.
Will result, what does that mean? Just, okay, we'll cross out will result,
Will result.
because that's,
And the
Going nowhere.
activity will not potentially result in pollution of wetlands and surface and groundwaters.
Potentially?
I don't think we need to put
No?
potentially.
Okay, take out potentially, okay. Okay,
I had some of that bolded.
I think the will result actually works there, because it's saying they will not require recontouring or grading of the land, and then no draining, dredging, filling, or change in the flow of water will result. So they're saying no
Right,
change in
okay,
the flow
I
of
agree,
water will
okay.
result.
You're
Leave it in.
correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so then we have utilize best management practices under A, under logging. Best management practices as a result in the best management practices of erosion control on timber harvesting operations in New Hampshire. Is that still an accurate
Yeah.
reference?
Yep.
Okay. And then there's, under B, I think that we just need to reformat it, move wetlands over to be in line with notification.
Oh, just a little. B. It's fixed on my copy.
It's what?
I don't see what
Yeah,
you're.
it's fixed on, I think you have the same copy as I do, so it's fine on our copy.
Why?
I don't know why, it's already been fixed, just like the pages are different.
Oh. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Okay, what else? Okay, under 6, activities incidental to, let's see, we're talking about, man, oh man, this is, activities incidental to, and I took out to ordinary residential use, such as normal ground maintenance, including mowing, trimming of vegetation, and I said take that out and just the activities incidental to removal of dead or diseased vegetation around the residence. Some shall remain in place but be ground down, but can be ground
I
down.
had a question on 2, actually, for Lisa. So where it says, farm agriculture and farming as governed by RSA 430, provided such activities and operations are in conformance with the most recent best management practices determined. So would that be like grazing sheep or something, or what would your best practices be?
I mean, that could, it wouldn't even necessarily just have to be limited to grazing. I mean, because in the Farm Bill, they do all kinds of invasive species,
So is that
kinds of
spelled out in
the-
that natural resources conservation?
Well, the best management practices, the best management practices are, it's not like, yeah, I mean, the management practices are spelled out, and then the practices they fund are part of what's spelled out, so, because it's Farm Bill stuff.
Okay, so that's not vague.
No, it wouldn't be,
Okay.
because sometimes things change, though, so in other words, like, we've had the discussion about the plant species lists and things like that, those things change, but.
Okay. And then for 3, where it says outdoor recreational activities including hunting, hiking, fishing, swimming, and boating, does it need to say no bikes or motors, or is that too specific?
So we're talking about permitted uses exempt from the planning board approval.
Right.
So all of these will have state regulations, right? Outdoor recreation, I know you're saying, Dean, that you can make them more stringent. But
I mean, it leaves it pretty open.
Yeah, so in other words, like, the question of, when you say, boating, well, now that we've got wake boating, well, that's not, I mean, so
Right.
I know what you're trying to say, that there have become activities within that broad definition that are not considered, like, I'm not gonna get political, but, yeah, so,
All right,
Could we say like, something like specific, well, I mean, that even leaves that open. I was gonna say specific types of boating, but that leaves it pretty much wide open too.
yeah, maybe we can't get specific right there.
Because I was thinking even the whole sentence, because I would say something like including but not limited to, because we're just saying like including it almost makes it seem like that's all we're talking about.
so just say,
But it is limited in,
do they
I mean,
not,
when you talk about hiking, you don't want people starting fires and,
well, so what you could say is outdoor recreational activities that do not contribute to erosion, destruction. Well, no, but just
I
sort
know-
of say
I could-
that do not contribute to erosion, degradation of the natural resource, of the natural resources. These activities could include hiking, the permitted activities could include, and just list them.
right,
I mean, it defines a little bit more what your concern is about, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like that's just like really vague, but
yeah,
You feel like it's what?
just vague.
3 is vague.
You know, it's just like parts of this are very specific and other parts are vague.
I mean, I think all of these, educational activities and scientific research, they're all, should be done with, keeping the environment the way it is, or whatever.
Right, well, but kind of like what you just asked me, though, about, are those best management practices written down, or is it just like
Right,
is it just a term,
right,
And that's kind of how I took your question, so I think we're facing the same thing with this, kind of, however we word that, unless we're.
I guess leaving it vague is, like, could also be looked at another way to say, we're leaving it more open, so like the determination, because if you make it specific, then it's only gonna apply to those specific things.
Right, I understood what your point was before, to saying, oh, well, they didn't mention this, so I can just do that.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
It's like non-peril,
right. So I think a qualifying language that says something like, these could include but are not
I know, it's,
I think the way you said
brain's
too,
not working.
before you said like some examples are, or examples of permitted activities or something like that.
Sure.
So it's like we're saying these are some examples, or like examples could include.
Yep.
We're not saying these are all they include, but they could include the,
Could include,
I don't
right.
know, I think that sounds,
Could include but not limited to.
maybe we just leave it. Did you have something on number 16? Or not?
Number 6.
No, I guess not.
Well,
Activities incidental to ordinary residential uses such as normal ground maintenance. But
Could-
we don't want them fertilizing.
but we don't want them mowing in certain areas either, right?
Activities incidental to, and then I struck out, and
You
I
did?
changed it to activities incidental to the removal of dead or diseased vegetation around the residence. Stumps shall remain in place, but can be ground down to existing grade. So take out such as,
Mowing, trimming,
I don't know if we can do that.
I don't know if we can either. Diseased vegetation you do want out.
Right.
It makes no mention of invasives.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
How much more do we have? I think we have to carry this over.
I was gonna say, what if we stopped here and then picked it up at the next meeting? But I had a question here, Lisa. State of New Hampshire Wetlands Board?
Mm-hmm. There is a wetlands board.
Okay, so they have jurisdiction versus DES.
I am not exactly sure of the structure. I know that we've appointed people to the wetlands board, though.
Are they part of DES?
I'm just wondering about that umbrella. I think they might be kind of like the advisory committees on the river, like
Yeah.
for the rivers. I think they're under DES.
Okay,
Part of Lakes
So-
Management Advisory, so, yeah.
all right, so we'll just leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's stop here, and then we can pick it up next meeting, because we still have to, we still need to talk about Guilford Recycling of styrofoam, and,
Is that Gray's report?
huh?
Oh, or your report?
Staff's report. And then, Lisa, do you have anything to add?
I don't remember. I'm
Huh?
sorry. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I seriously, I didn't bring any information. I will send it to Greg. If I find something that I thought, oh, I should have told you, I'll send it to Greg.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Okay.
have him send it out to you.
Do you have any update on what's going on in your neighborhood? No?
Haven't seen any activity
Oh, good,
there anyway.
good, okay. No news is good news. You have anything?
Lake Coast is going. It's it was very busy last week.
I
Both,
bet.
both ramps were super busy. So, yeah, it's going well.
Okay. Okay. Guilford Recycling.
So, was it 4th of July week before the holiday? Rob was on vacation. Tyler was overseeing the office, and I came back from lunch one day, and he had a great idea. He said, "I'm gonna lay this on you. Guilford has styrofoam recycling. We don't have an official program. See who you can get into contact with over there about getting something started maybe for Laconia. Because it would be nice to have a styrofoam recycling program." So I looked into it, talked to the head of DPW, the DPW director over at Guilford. We chatted on the phone, and she told me about other organizations within the city of Laconia that have either collection events, which is pretty common, or they just do a collection and bring it over. So she gave me like 2 or 3 contacts of people who have either been interested in it but haven't gotten off the ground yet, or who have had successful collection events. I reached out to them, and then Dean told me that Taylor Community also does it. So I reached out to those 2 other organizations. I actually have to get back to them probably tomorrow, now that the holiday is over, and touch base about maybe conservation, if you guys want to be involved, having our own collection event, or maybe working with any of the other organizations to do some kind of collection event, start it.
Is one of them the Unitarian Church?
So one of them is a church. I can't remember if it's Unitarian.
You. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a you.
I think I saw something about that in the Sun.
They do soft plastics collection. They seem to do fairly well with it, and it's just a couple streets over, so.
Yeah, and then
Was
the
it-
other, I got a contact for Laconia Rotary Club, or Lakes Region Rotary Club,
Oh, okay.
who has done some as well. So I emailed both of them. I have to actually check, and I saw that they responded, but I haven't read their message yet. So
Yeah, the church,
the-
I'm sure would be, because they do it once a month,
Yeah,
and I'm sure they would be happy to, you know,
Yeah,
help us or, you know,
We
gather
ha-
whatever they want for us.
well, I was just wondering, I don't know who has the greater capacity.
Mm.
The Unitarian, as far as bodies to do the work.
Right.
So,
But I did see, I read somewhere that some other towns are bringing their styrofoam to Guilford.
yes, so
So-
she said there are a lot of other municipalities who, and she told me like the number of people they currently have bringing styrofoam to them, and it's pretty impressive, but, she says they have municipalities and individual organizations doing it. So I reached out to them and talked about, we'd be interested in maybe collaborating, would you be interested in collaborating on something for a styrofoam recycling event? So yeah, that's where we are, and I'll pick that up probably tomorrow and see where it goes.
That's
Because
great.
Tyler was excited about the idea of maybe even us starting our own styrofoam recycling program, since we
Mhm.
don't have one right now. And we were like, it's unlikely that DPW would take on a collection, so we would probably try to do some kind of schedule of styrofoam collection events. Whether it's under Concom's banner, the city's banner, or in collaboration with like the church, we could really do
well, that,
anything.
yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm just trying to be practical about, who's doing the work.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, it would be a good idea to collaborate,
I think so, yeah.
bodies, yeah. And if they've done it before, they know what they're doing. It sounds like Taylor also, you guys have done it, so the more experience, the better. But,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, could be good to be involved.
Yeah, I think that you know, that it's bulky material, that's the issue. So the man who does the styrofoam at Taylor, he probably goes to, Guilford probably once or twice a week,
Oh, wow.
because it's so bulky.
Yeah, but it's
But the thing it's really, the thing that's really cool
You're
is,
volunteering.
one time he was on vacation, he asked me to do it, so I took it over. It was really cool. They take the styrofoam and they put it into this machine, and the machine grinds it up, and it comes out a blanket about, 2 inches thick, and it's like maybe 3 feet wide. And then they take that material and they recycle it. It goes and it's made into, guess what? Styrofoam. So I think if we could get organizations, and I don't think, we don't have any place to store this stuff.
Right.
Plus, you gotta make sure, like, the problem that we have at Taylor is people, it's not like styrofoam. It's plastic trays that are put in and other junk.
Yeah.
And so you gotta separate that. You can't take it over because Guilford won't take it. So I think if we could get Kiwanis, Rotary, and other big organizations like that, I think that's the way to do it. Give it to
Yeah.
somebody else. Get them going, but give it to somebody else to do.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd like the dream is to one day have some kind of, even if it's like a quarterly schedule, that the citizens of Laconia could come drop their styrofoam off, but, yeah. I
Have to
think
be once
working
a
with other
month.
people would be best, so.
Yeah, well, I don't wanna believe it, cause I said I'm 8 o'clock and I'm out of here, but, so, just the single stream, when we had single stream recycling though, we had to give it up because contamination, so I'm just saying, however, we have people drop off, even just styrofoam or whatever, it has to be controlled, because
Right.
otherwise it's
Just like, I mean, does the city still do the cardboard boxes?
Oh, that's, and people throw crap in there
They
that's
do.
listed right on the sign, don't
I
put it
know.
in here.
I know.
Yeah, it specifically says, no pizza boxes. Oh, look at this pizza box. Oh, this one's clean.
Well, the good news is, she did say that they would, if we start doing an event or something, they loan us the styrofoam collection bags that are reusable.
Yeah,
so.
and these bags are like, the bags are like the size of this desk here.
was
That's
gonna
how big
say.
they are.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
They're
like this
ho-
tall.
Yeah, hopefully you have a truck, we don't. but-
Well, they fit in the back of my car, so,
Okay. There
but,
you
it depends on how long you wait.
Yeah.
But our biggest problem was created when we went to single stream.
Okay.
We should have,
Never.
now,
Because in my mind, especially if we have enough manpower between us and like a church or Rotary Club, it could be, we could advertise collection event this day and then have someone or a couple people there for different shifts. And
Right.
people could come drop it off, so we could be like, okay, look
Right.
at your haul, make sure everything looks good. Or
I-
have
I
some kind of
agree.
monitor
So-
on it.
Do you think like if we had like a collection day that we could borrow a truck from DPW? Or
We could make something happen, cause I mean, Parks and Rec has a van, I could ask if we could borrow that. It's like a 12-passenger van, it's huge.
because even if it were a Saturday and we collected all the stuff into one of the big dump trucks DPW has, then they could take it up on Monday or
I
whatever.
don't know, but we could.
I mean, they used to do that when we would clean up the streams. They would leave us a big truck and we would fill it up.
Yeah,
or a dumpster,
Yeah.
leave us a dumpster.
yeah, yeah. I don't know.
That's another thing we need to do is clean up the streams. We haven't done that in a while.
Drawdown, drawdown, that's how we do that.
I know, we don't have a big one this year. I think it's,
We had it last,
was last
last
year.
year.
anyway.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I got. That's my staff conclusion.
Wrap up, your wrap up.
My wrap up.
It's a wrap.
I'll make a motion, what do we do?
Wait a minute, no, wait.
Oh, we're not done?
No,
Okay.
so we have one other issue, and that is, do we wanna have a meeting next Wednesday, or do we wanna do it 2 weeks away? No matter how we slice it, we're going to be, now, if we do it on the 23rd, so not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after, then it would be 2 weeks to the one in August.
Right.
And we'll be back on to, the first and third Wednesdays of the month.
Somehow that sounds like I'm busy, but I can't remember why.
I am actually busy, I think, on the
On the what?
16th, which would be next.
Right, so he was,
I'm good on the
But the
23rd.
23rd, I'm fine.
I'm good on the 23rd.
I'm good on the 23rd.
All right.
Okay, and we're doing water sampling next Wednesday, right?
Yeah, the
16th.
16th. So we will sample the 16th.
Okay.
And we'll, if you
So the
want
next
to-
meeting will be July 23rd.
Right,
Got it, Gray?
yes.
Is that votable, or is that only with money expenditure? Or do you wanna make a motion or something?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we change our meeting to July 23rd.
second.
All in favor, say aye. And, wait a minute, anybody have a discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
It's anonymous.
Now I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Anybody? No, second.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great, thank you. So we'll pick up on the wetland regs on the 23rd.